All right, guys, we're live. It's episode 287 of the Shooter's Mindset. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Joining me, Jennifer Seymour's in the house. What's going on, Jen?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how's it
Greg,
going?
Greg Cannon's in the house. What's going on, Greg?
Hey, everyone.
Guests and stars of the hour. They're from Annealing Made Perfect. Alex and Matt is joining us. What's going on, guys?
How's it going?
How are you?
It's good to have you guys on, man. I tell you what, man, this is going to be a show that I know very little about. I had to ask, like, Jen, like,
You'll learn a lot.
what's going on? What did they do? And I know we did a video at SHOT Show, and I saw that video for the most part. But it just, like, between all the SHOT Show videos that we put up, I was like, I just needed a refresher. So I'm going to be the dummy on this show for sure. But starting announcements. For those who are watching the show live on Facebook, you can get your live questions in the comment section below the live stream. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, you can join us every 9 on Tuesday, 9 Eastern. We do the show here live on the Shooter's Mindset Facebook. Join the conversation, get your questions in. Otherwise, we appreciate you listening. TheShootersMindset.com for all your Shooter's Mindset needs, bios, articles, and the latest with Shooter's Mindset stuff. Show sponsors, we don't have any for 2020. You can always email me, theshootersmindset@gmail.com if you want to sponsor the show. What else we got? That's it. Let's get into it, right? For those of you who are unfamiliar with you guys, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how your company got started.
Fine. Well, just for a start, just so you know, we are coming to you from Auckland in New Zealand, way down in the South Pacific, and we're in our laboratory right now. So we plan to show you a little bit about how the actual R&D and research and what the science behind annealing really is all about. We started back in 2010 is when we first got interested in annealing. I'm in a reloader all my life, and my reloading mentor actually said, Alex, I've got to show you a little bit about annealing. So I went round to his place and he got out a big gas torch and a bucket of water and proceeded to turn my cases cherry red. And I went home and spoke to Matt and I said, hey, we got to do something better than this. I'm not going to do that to my brass. And so Matt and I put our heads together and started to do some research. What we found was that all the major manufacturers, the ones with more modern equipment certainly are using induction annealing for their annealing process. And by that, we've found now that, for example, Peterson, Alpha, Norma, they all use induction annealing because it's just so much more precise and quick and accurate. Now, an interesting thing about the way those companies set up, any professional brass manufacturer with their own annealing, they don't care what the temperature is when they're annealing the brass. What they're concerned about is the hardness of the brass, the finished result. And they all have equipment like this. This is a micro Vickers hardness testing machine, and anyone who's producing brass, they use one of these in order to ensure that their production run is exactly accurate every time.
Just jump in.
Yeah, sure.
So back when our dad here asked me about what can we do to solve this problem, I was working for an airline, and I was a toolmaker by trade, working on their gas turbine engines, and I had access to a metallurgy lab. So what we did in the early days was we did a few. We tried the flame thing was too inconsistent for us, so we immediately decided induction was the way to go at a very early stage, and we got a few very basic prototypes together just to give us some control, and we were able then, and this is looking way back when the understanding then was temper-lac or temperature sensitive paste.
Yep.
So what we decided to do was, okay, the sort of idea back then is 750 degree temper-lac, right? That's what the majority of, because we went online and tried to find out what we could. We were naive back then as to how to do it, but all of the literature was saying 750 degree temper-lac on the case, and when it melts or changes color, that is the indication that you've annealed the brass correctly to the right heat. So we took a few of these cases, or initially the first prototype of this machine was trying to get the thing to melt. And that's a lot harder to build one of these things than especially back then. So we got something working. It was burning out coils left, right, and center. We had to change a coil every 10 or so cycles. But I was taking these samples to work during my lunch break and asking the metallurgist there, hey, do you mind running these through your process and telling us what's happened here? We'd give them a control sample, which was, out of the rifle. So this has been work hardened, reloaded X amount of times. I forget how many, like 5 times, for example. So we had a control and one that was annealed, and we'd ask the guy, hey, what's the difference here? And we got the annealed case to what we thought, based on the Templac, was satisfactory. And we found that pretty much nothing was happening, which was a revelation to us. So from that point on, we really decided that the temperature was not important, because you've got a piece of hardness testing equipment that gives you the reality of what's going on. And so then it was all about the hardness and the resulting metallurgy as opposed to a target temperature, because we then got into a bit more of the metallurgy behind what's going on, and we discovered that annealing brass is a time and temperature thing. So as you decrease time, the temperature needs to increase. And if you've got a long period of time, so for example, the literature says that if you want to anneal the entire case, for example, the body included, you stick it into an oven at say 600 degrees Fahrenheit for an hour, and then the whole thing will come down to an even hardness, but we don't want to do that. So
if you like, we can demonstrate how hardness testing actually works, so you can see what the process is involved. Would you like to see that?
Yeah, sure, man. Take it.
Yeah.
Take a circle.
We'll start. This is a Micro Vickers hardness testing machine, and we'll start with some Peterson 308 Winchester brass, straight out of the box. Now, this is, I'm sure most of your customers will know, this is very high quality brass. So we'll put it. The first thing we do, we've got a whole series of caliber specific mandrels, and these mandrels are designed so they support the neck of the case, so we can get an accurate hardness reading. So when we put it on, this is the correct mandrel for 308. I'll light that up. Now what we're looking at here is the brass under 400 times magnification. That's the case neck. Now, to get a reading on this, we will turn this around. And this process takes about 40 seconds. We'll hit start, and on the anvil there is a diamond which is going to put an indent in the brass. And depending on how hard the brass is, that will either, it'll make a larger or a smaller diamond. And on the screen here, we're able to measure that diamond, and that gives you an extremely accurate reading of how hard the brass is. So, as I said before, this is virgin Lapua brass straight out of the box. I'm thinking this is going to be around about 102, 103 in the Vickers scale. I'll explain it. You'll hear it chirp when the process is over. Nearly over now.
Any second.
There we go. So now we swing it back to the microscope, and here is our diamond. I'll just bring that into focus. And now we bring the cursor up and we put the points on the diamond. 97.1, which is perfect. That's in fact our target when we're doing hardness testing.
You guys are seeing a mirror image of, so essentially you have to take our word. That is 97.1.
Yeah, it's coming out in reverse.
Yeah.
But essentially our hardness testing when we are doing our targets is between 95 and 100. In fact, 98 is exactly what we aim for. Brass is not a perfect substance, and therefore you're always going to get some variation. But that's showing you how that actually works. Now, moving on from there, we now will test some brass that has been shot, just to show you how work hardening changes things.
And just while Alex is swapping that over, that manual system that we set up with the hardness tester is so that we can actually go and test a piece of brass and then go and shoot it again. Normally, when you do metallurgical samples, you actually section them and you mount them in resin. But that's destructive testing, so you've got no way to go and then shoot that piece of brass again. So we've done testing here where we've shot, a piece of brass, say 50 times, and then done a hardness test like this. Each time it's been fired, and we can see the creep or the change. We can test, without annealing versus annealing, and so on. And
So these cartridges here have been fire formed, sized, and fire formed again. So they've been shot twice. You can see the primer is still in the case. So I had to put a new mandrel in because we need a snug fit for this to be accurate. And the virgin mandrel is not the same size as the fire formed mandrel. So this one is, again, going to be nice and snug. Got to put that on carefully. Now, because it's a different mandrel, I need to adjust this to the correct position.
Incidentally, if you guys have our machine or had anything to do with sending us samples in the past, this is what happens to your samples. They have to go through this process. It takes a bit of time.
So now I make sure that that is still centered in the view.
So just to recap, this is a fire-formed piece.
This is a fire-formed piece of brass that's been shot, sized once, and then shot again. So now we're ready to test that. I'll clear this image. So again, this is a slow process. It takes 40 seconds for it to happen. So it is quite time-consuming to do it. What we're going to do after we've gone through this is we're going to show you some variations of what can happen. And in particular, we just happen to have some Tempelac here. This is not 750 degrees. This is actually 800 Fahrenheit Tempelac. We'll show you what results we get from that. So this is, again, it's just unloading now. We'll hear it chirp fairly shortly.
While we're waiting for it to chirp, are we still running good? Is there anybody who wants to say anything else at this point?
Well, the Precision Rifle Series Australia actually said, "Great product, guys. Thanks for supporting the shooting sports."
Yep, cool. We're sponsoring the guys in Australia. We're also sponsoring the entire PRS season in USA through Shannon and Kay. Shannon and Julie Kay over in Tennessee. So it's an exciting year for us.
I see a question there. Do you have to do this every time you reload the brass? We'll get to that, right?
Yeah, we'll get to that as well. So we'll come back now and we'll look at the hardness of this brass that has been shot and fired. As you can see already, the diamond is a lot smaller. So we're now going to put the points on the diamond and measure that. And that's up to 132, which is a lot harder. So what we'll do now...
Just quickly before we carry on, is there a way I can not have this image?
Remember this, that chat is what we're talking. That's not actually the live feed.
Okay.
Greg, what's that?
Are you guys seeing it mirrored?
Like the image on the screen, it's all left to right and right to left. Are you seeing?
Are you reading that back?
Yeah.
We see it correctly.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
We'll stop panicking about it then.
So that's what we were seeing.
Okay. So we've got 132 there. Now we'll do a little experiment with some 800 degree Tempelac.
So this is not 750. It's a bit hotter than what people recommend, as per the original way of doing things.
So put a little bit of Tempelac on. Okay, I'll just let that dry for a second so we're not putting it in hot. Now, incidentally, we've put on the annealer, we'll use one of our annealers, where we've put on there a code in Aztec that we know is too low. So this won't be annealing this accurately. We put 150 in there. So we're ready to go. We're now going to anneal that. And when you look at that, that has gone black. That 800 degree Tempelac has gone completely black.
So that would indicate that based on the old method, that's now correctly annealed.
Yeah, according to popular wisdom, that's correctly annealed now. I have forgotten to get myself a wet rag. Could you possibly go and give me a wet rag there? Because we handle a lot of hot cases in this process, and you've got to have a wet rag, otherwise you burn your fingers. Normally, incidentally, when you're running an annealing run, you just let the cases air dry, but we need to touch them a bit quicker.
You might want to touch on how that doesn't affect
Yeah, quenching is completely unnecessary.
Yeah, so unlike steel, where if you take hot steel and put that in water, quenching it, that will affect the metallurgy. But with brass, it doesn't do anything. All it does is actually just stop it just cools it down, essentially.
So
Okay.
We do have a live question on here that is kind of pertinent to what y'all are doing. Jeremy Swanee, woo, hey Swanee. He says, what is the correct info for 6GT caliber? And I believe it's case specific. Don't you have to test one case to find out what's correct?
We'll show you how that works very shortly. We're coming to up to that part now. The beauty of the new Aztec system, which all our new annealers have, is that they are self-analytical. They'll analyze the brass accurately themselves without the customer having to send us samples. So we've now got this case that we did at 800 degrees, or we didn't do it at 800 degrees. We had 800 degree templac on it, but we put it in a program we know is too low. So we'll now clear it again. We will put our diamond in, but the brass is quite a lot darker now under the microscope because it's been annealed. It looks darker. But now the case is going to go down, and again, it takes a little while for this to work. We've spent literally thousands of hours in this process over the years.
Just to give you guys a quick peek. That's one of like 5 or so bins of brass that we put through the lab. We've got another one that's about twice the size of that in another room.
Yeah, we destroy quite a lot of brass.
Wow.
Okay, that's now done. So we're now going to test that diamond. And that diamond now is 123. So that is nowhere near annealed. As we said before, the target is between 95 and 100, ideally 98. So that just simply isn't annealed. So the next question is, how do we get the correct setting? How do we know when it's accurate? Well, in the old days when we started, we simply had customers send us brass. We've got walls and walls filled with the samples here where we physically ran their brass through our lab here, and we emailed them back with a program which they could use. Yeah, okay. So, but now with Aztec, we don't need to do any of that stuff. With I'll wait for Matt to get back, but I'll show you the actual Aztec process is all patented. It's completely unique to our product.
So, you know, here's a pack of 2 to 3. I won't show the details there, but we have this coupon that you print out and then you send it to us, and then we'll put it through the lab, and then we archive it. So that way, if the customer says, well, I've done this to my brass, how does that affect it? We can, in theory, go back to the shelf, pick it up. We can go and test what he's done, and he or she's done, and then we can give them the updated result next. So, yeah, we even get, you know, up to 50 BMG and you know, and all the wildcats that people want to do.
So now, what we'll do is we'll run through the Aztec process, and we'll find out what is the actual correct annealing program for this cartridge. This is, as I said, this is 308 Winchester in Peterson brass, which is very high quality brass. So the first thing we'll do, if you want to bring the camera over, mate, is we'll wake the annealer up.
Do you want to explain how to get this code?
Yeah. Yeah, the first thing we need to do is on our website, you'll go to our Aztec page and you'll scroll down until you find your cartridge. And this,
you can go up to the very top.
Yeah.
And don't use it because it's not connected to the internet now. But you can actually, you got a wizard here. So all you do is you select your caliber, and then once you've done that, you can then select your cartridge, and it will give you the result.
Right.
That you know, just simplifies it.
So now we're going to scroll down to 308 Winchester.
And is there GT information on this page as well?
Yeah, all the information is on there. So
you find GT,
yeah, I will shortly. Yeah, if you wanted a 6 GT,
was it 6 GT or
6 GT?
There it is.
Yes, there it is. There's your 6 GT. They use pilot number 73 and Aztec analyze code 073B. Now we'll go back to 308 Winchester.
As you can see, this is pretty.
We've got a huge number of cartridges that we've done in here. So, and we would have more 308 Winchester, probably more 308 Winchester Lapua than almost anything else. So the correct pilot for 308 Winchester, no matter what brand it is pilot number 11. There it is there. It's already screwed in. We've got over 100 pilots. They range from pilots, huge big pilots for 50 BMG, There's middle and tiny little ones for very short cartridges like your 30 BRs and that sort of stuff. So the code, what we're going to enter into here to tell the annealer what it's looking at, the correct analyze code for this is 011B. So we're going to go back into analyze mode. We're then going to enter 011. No, we go back. I got it wrong. 011B, and we're good to go. We're now going to melt that case. Now going.
So this is the sacrificial case that you.
Yeah, you're going to throw this case away. Now, remind us, we've got something interesting to tell you about that. So there is the case that's been done.
It's melted, so that you throw
Melted.
away, but it gives you the right code.
We're going to throw that away with all the other ones. We're actually going to do several because it's natural to get some different numbers
Just
with
hang
this.
on, before you change that, that's the code that one goes.
Yeah, that one goes 0159.
What was the starting condition of that one?
The starting condition was shot fireform, right? And it's fireformed when you always need to do your analyze. Now we're going to go back and analyze a second case. So, got to go to analyze. We're going to do it again. 011B. Analyze another case.
So what's this case?
This is exactly the same as the last case.
Okay. So 0159 was the first code.
Yeah. 0156. We'll do a third one now. Normally with Peterson, we were talking about plus or minus 1. And 156, I know with the other ones I've done is correct. It's the third case. 157. 157 is going to be the best average of those, and that is normal. Very seldom have we tested even the very best max grade brass, which gives you the one thing. The reason for that, Aztec itself is extremely accurate. There's always some variation, as I mentioned before, in cases from case to case, and that's what every reloader is trying to make the cases as similar as possible. So now we're going to take that case on program 157, and we're going to anneal one.
Hang on, just before you do that. So that's the starting condition of the case.
Yep.
All right. And all we've done is we've sacrificed one, and we're using the code that it's told us is correct.
Yep.
And so that's a fire-formed case, is it?
This is exactly the same as the ones that we
Do
sacrificed.
you want to put it on there first to show the starting hardness?
Well, we already know the other one
Okay.
was the same. It was around
It's
about
gonna be the
130
same.
odd. So we're now going to put it in here. We're going to hit use, and we're now going to anneal that case.
That's done. It took like 3.5 seconds.
So that's really hot. So I've got to let this case cool down before I test it. Could have made this rag a bit wetter, mate.
We have to save water.
It has been very dry down here. So now we put it back onto the mandrel.
Would you like more water?
No. We're now going to bring back our picker screen. There's the brass. On a hardness
See, that
test.
one definitely has been shot.
Yep.
So basically, you sacrifice that one case
Yeah.
in order to find out exactly what,
Yeah. Now,
exactly how much you need to anneal it.
Yeah, now an interesting thing is that we, at SHOT Show, we met with the guys, Derek and the guys from Peterson's, and I talked to them again today. They are planning on, a lot of people, when you only get 50 cases in a box, sacrificing a few of them hurts. So Peterson's are actually going to be doing the analysis for every lot that they produce and putting it on their website. So a customer, instead of sacrificing their brass, can just go to Peterson's website and check it out themselves. And so we think that's a really great service that Peterson's are planning on doing.
And just on that, you only have to do this sacrifice process once. Once you've got it, you write the code down, and then you go reload and shoot the batch. Next time you want to anneal it, you just have to enter that same code, and you don't have to keep sacrificing the case since we ran out of brass.
Right. So here is the
So this
the
is
annealed hardness.
It's finished.
fraction softer, we'll just take another reading.
Normally you do 3 readings to get the.
Oh, this is a real jerky aspect.
You can see that this takes a bit of time, so imagine doing thousands of them.
Yes. Yes, it certainly isn't a fast process.
Got any live that we can throw in here as they're waiting for the process, Greg, or did you pull any?
Yeah. So Chad said that the GT data that you pulled up was for the Lapua brass, and he was wondering if you guys had any for the Hornady or the Alpha brass yet.
Yeah, we have. Just hang on, I'll do this reading.
Does no one shoot anything else apart from GT?
No, it's the year of the GT.
Yeah.
It is. It's incredible. It uses Pilot 73, and we sell more 73 just about than 11 is by far our biggest number. But yeah, it's extraordinary how many guys are shooting that. The thing as well with Aztec, it doesn't matter what brand you've got. We've got, for example, with the 308 brass we're doing, I'm going to show you in a second, we've got some Winchester brass here as well, which I'll show you will give completely different results. It doesn't matter what the brand is, it will give you the correct result.
Just waiting for that reading.
Yeah.
So when you're doing hardness tests like this, it's about averages. You can't rely on just one reading.
Yeah.
We know that you know that brass out of the box is roughly 98.
Even with virgin brass, you still get, and the highest quality virgin brass, you still get variations on the one case around the neck. It's just the way it is. Okay. Finished.
Did you actually press the button?
No, I must have pressed the button. Sorry, we're taking a bit more time than we should. Yeah, as I said, we'll be doing some Winchester brass after this as well.
Okay. So basically the settings to go and run your destructive test, it doesn't matter what brand case it is, it's more based on the case size and shape.
It doesn't matter what brand you've got. It doesn't matter if you've neck turned it. It doesn't matter, for example, if you've got neck walls that are 15 thou thick, or if you've trimmed them or turned them down to 12 thou, it will still give you exactly the right the right setting. It's incredibly accurate.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure exactly how that worked.
Yeah, let's crash through some of these live ones if we got them before the process continues, because then we'll get away from a lot of these.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay.
Just quickly, we'll finish up here.
Yeah, this one's given us 97.4, which is exactly correct. If you remember, the one that we did with the 800-degree temp, like on the lower process, was way up in the 125s. Now, just incidentally.
Yeah. You're going to like some questions.
Okay. Yep.
Sorry, you guys had some questions.
Yep. So Daniel said he's seen some videos in the sorting mode. With his new amp Aztec, he could not find it. Wondering about that. I guess if you guys are going to be releasing the videos of sorting mode.
Sort mode, when we first developed Aztec back in early 2018, we thought we had a sort mode where you could actually analyze and see if there was a difference between the neck and shoulder of different cartridges. We initially released Aztec with sort mode, but after only a matter of a month or two, we found that it wasn't fit for purpose, and we deleted sort mode from Aztec.
It wasn't doing anything apart from, it was very minute, like nothing that would be quantifiable in terms of helping make reloaders make any decisions.
No, and it was driving guys nuts because literally all it was doing was picking up dimensional differences, not actually thickness of neck wall or any of the stuff you really wanted to show. So it's been deleted since, and we posted it on our news items and what have you extensively at the time. It just was unfit for purpose.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And we actually refunded people who purchased Aztec with the sort mode.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously a lot of guys are quite excited about sort mode. So anybody so you'll notice that Aztec is now discounted. What's the headline price?
The original price for Aztec was $250 US, and it's now $195 US. Because, but Aztec is included as standard in every Mark II annealer that we sell now.
Gotcha.
So just to show you, oh, sorry, any other questions?
I know you want
Let's see. There's another one. Steve was saying he was having some issues with the dealer pages. I guess he's a dealer trying to order. Is there somebody he should contact, a number, an email, anything like that?
All he needs to do is contact us as a on info at AMP Annealing, and we'll talk to him about that.
Cool. Info at Annealing. Cool. Got that for Steve. And I think that's all the.
Caught up on there.
Yep,
I think we're all caught up on live.
Okay. Now, just to go back to Tempur-Lake, we're not saying Tempur-Lake. Tempur-Lake's probably a great product for the purposes it's designed for. It's just not designed for very, very fast flash annealing, and so it's extremely subjective if you want to use it for that purpose. But we're not saying there's anything wrong with Tempur-Lake itself. It's a great product. Now, what we'll do now is we'll show you what happens with Winchester brass, which is much lighter brass. Still the same 308. We'll run one of these on the same program that annealed the Peterson brass correctly.
And just as an example, before you press the start button, this is just an example of a lighter case. There are many brands out there that like this.
There's huge variations.
There are some premium brands that are like this as well. So this is just an example.
So here we're going to run that.
So this is a lighter case with the same setting as a Peterson.
And you see that came out glowing red. It's actually melted at the tips, and that case is destroyed.
So that's why one setting doesn't work for all cases.
Yeah.
And that's the 308.
Yeah, now we'll show you how to get the correct setting for the Winchester brass. You simply go back through the same process.
The same exact analyze code as the Peterson.
Select Analyze, which is 011B. And we're going to find out what the correct code is for Winchester 308 brass.
Remember that Peterson was 0157 or so.
So this is way down at 135. Right?
That's the sacrificial case.
Yep. Now, if we now go ahead and anneal a Winchester 308 case.
Just before you press it, just take it out. We'll see that it's definitely not in beforehand.
Yeah. This is all exactly the same condition as the Peterson brass, in that it has been shot, resized, and shot again. So now we're going to use 135. It's annealed, quite visibly annealed. Instantly, that's another thing.
Can you show that?
Yeah, I will as soon as I don't burn my fingers, mate. I'm not going to burn my fingers.
I thought it was standard.
So,
Oh, you got 10 of them.
now, that is still hot. So some cases when they come out of annealing look deeply annealed like that one does. Other cases look like they haven't been annealed at all. It's purely cosmetic. You simply can't rely on the looks of the cartridges. Thanks, Oscar.
That's plenty wet.
No, I want it wet.
Wet. He wants it wet.
Yeah. It'll normally sizzle when it goes into the case. Thanks. Right, so now we'll do the hardness testing on this one.
So you can imagine the kind of variables that are actually happening. You got neck thickness, you've got case thickness in the shoulder, because what you're trying to do is anneal not just the neck, but the shoulder as well. Obviously, lot numbers come into play, obviously brands as well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got all the different calibers.
Yeah, just with Lapua, we've found just with Lapua 308 that there's multiple different settings you need for different lot numbers. So one of the secrets to therefore making this work is when you buy your brass, keep your different lots separate. Don't mix your lots. If you mix your lots, it's like trying to put toothpaste back in the tube. You can't unmix them again.
So, for example, if you
I did that.
If you had a whole lot of Peterson and a whole lot of Winchester, for example, and you're relying on one setting, well, that's exactly why it would work. So you do need to separate your cases by brand and lot with this process.
That's a little bit low, but again, this particular brass is giving fairly variable numbers. So, yeah, any other questions while we're waiting?
But we could kind of start hitting on one of the other, I guess, big questions that we have for you guys, because we went into a lot of the science of annealing, how it works, everything like that. But let's say that I'm not an engineer and I'm a shooter. What are the benefits of annealing versus not annealing? Like what will I see? Is it going to affect how my bullets seat? Is it going to affect my SDs? Is it going to affect my brass life?
Yes, the biggest single benefit that annealing gives you is you get exactly the same sizing every time. We use, for a lot of our testing, we're using like a Reading bushing die, full length sizing, and it'll give you extremely accurate resizing every time. It'll mean that your bushing will be identical, your neck tension will be identical every time, and so will your shoulder bump. Now, we've done extensive testing, in fact, on our research tab on our website, you can go to the research tab and then go into our research, and you'll find that we've done a number of articles on this very subject. We've done extensive dimensional measurings in annealing under the microscope part 5. You'll see a major study on this, where we compared annealed with not annealed, and without, if you don't anneal, basically unannealed brass as it work hardens is springy brass. So as the case goes up into the die, when it comes back out again, it springs back fractionally. And the harder it gets, the more it springs back. So, for example, if you start off setting your die for 2 thou neck tension, after a couple of reloads, you're only going to be getting 1 thou neck tension. If you're setting up for example, 2 thou shoulder bump, after a couple of reloads, you'll be back to 1 thou or sometimes even no shoulder bump at all. So the biggest single benefit of annealing is accurate resizing. It obviously helps with case life as well. I mean, yeah, chamber sealing is another one. You get, because the brass, the neck of the case is the correct softness or hardness, whichever way you want to go, it'll seal the case better on firing, which gives you more consistency. And that, along with the correct sizing, gives you much more accurate standard deviations. Most of our shooters report back to us on significant improvements, in their standard deviation and also in their SDs. And their extreme spreads.
So that case came out 95, which is 2 points.
Yeah, so that's the Winchester case. So it on 135 is annealed exactly correctly as well. So as we said before, with Aztec, it doesn't matter what the brand is, it doesn't matter what the neck turning or whatever is, it will give you exactly the correct annealing code every time. Now, just to reiterate, we talked before about what the professionals use, and Peterson, Alpha, Norma, all those guys all use induction annealing. It's very quick and it's exactly precise.
But more importantly, they all have their own metallurgy labs to actually, because none of their equipment has the Aztec function. In fact, they actually have, most of these guys have one of our machines in their lab to do their own reloading.
Yeah.
But what they do to set up their induction heat source is use a lab very similar to what we're doing. In fact, it's the only way you can really do it.
Yeah.
But so just as an aside quickly, we don't do everything ourselves here. We have access to another metallurgy lab for independent verification. So all of the results on our papers, our research articles, are also verified by this guy metallurgy. He does cross-sectional analysis. All sorts of stuff that we can't do here. Plus, the guy is a doctorate in metallurgy. So, for example, here's just
this is the kind of work that he does, where you get a section case, and by doing it this way, when you put it into the micro Vickers hardness testing machine, instead of measuring the outside of the neck, you can measure along the inside of the brass itself. Yeah. And you can verify that you're getting exactly the same, or we can verify we're getting the same results by using the mandrel. All of the stuff has been done that way by the external metallurgy guy.
And you can see a whole lot of photos of that on our articles research.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, what would be the recommended order of operations for the perfect reload compared to most people?
Sorry, you're breaking up. I couldn't quite understand that.
Process.
I'm guessing that was what is the perfect step-by-step.
Here, I'll read it because he's breaking up. What is the recommended order of operations for the perfect reload?
Right. Well, the first thing, we can only talk about from an annealing perspective, obviously. But from an annealing perspective, you should first fire form your brass, and I think most experts would agree that a case isn't fully fire formed until the third shot. So when you're setting up in particularly a shoulder bump, you should be fire forming your brass at least twice, and preferably 3 times before you set that shoulder bump. We've spoken to a lot of the guys at SHOT Show, the other professionals, and they agree that that is correct. And so the correct process is, from our perspective, is first fire form your brass and then run your Aztec to get your correct annealing code. You should always anneal with the taking the case straight out of the gun, but anneal before you resize, because that's where you get the most benefit from annealing, is on accurate resizing. So you anneal first. Now, depending on whether you want to clean your brass, and a lot of our top shooters don't clean their brass at all, but if you do want to clean your brass, you can deprime the brass first out of the gun so that your primer pocket gets cleaned as well. And you can do some cleaning then, and then you can anneal and then size. Or you can just, a lot of our guys don't do that at all. They just anneal the case straight out of the gun and then size it and then do the rest of their reload.
I think Jennifer was wanting to say something.
Sure.
Oh, now I was just reading the question that he was having trouble with.
Essentially, in a nutshell, when it comes to annealing, just shoot it, then anneal it, then reload it, essentially.
So Adam wants to know, what about annealing dirty? Do you want to tumble it before, or will getting a little bit of dirt in the annealer mess it up?
And dirt doesn't know, or dirt within reason doesn't affect annealing at all. We've done cases that have got lots of carbon on the outside, or just general dirt. Wipe the lube off. You don't want lube on your case when you're annealing it. But then again, if you're annealing straight out of the gun, you're not going to have lube there. Dirt doesn't interfere with the annealing or the induction annealing itself. Makes no difference.
A lot of guys like to clean before annealing. If they are cleaning, we recommend, if you're using our machine to anneal, that you make sure your brass is absolutely free of any of the debris that, for example, stainless steel pins that fall into the machine, they'll heat up as well if they're stuck inside the inductor. Corn cob media isn't as bad, but it tends to burn and leave a residue. Yeah. So we just say, if you're using our machine, just make sure that you make sure the media is definitely out of the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see how that could be problematic.
Now, I didn't even think about that.
Any other questions?
That's all we have live right now.
So what makes the AMP Mark II so much better than literally everything else on the market?
Well, simply because it does everything we've shown you today. It's the only way. Don't get us wrong. You can certainly anneal with flame annealing. The difficulty is getting the correct dwell time, if you like, in the flame to get the hardness right. You can use Tempolac, but we know that's not terribly accurate.
In a nutshell, if you have this thing arrive in a box, you can unpackage it. Let's just say because the instructions are online, let's just say you've read it before the package turns up, and you've found what your code is, your Aztec setting and everything, and you know what pilot you've got, so you've ordered it as well. You can open the box, find the correct setting using Aztec, and anneal 100 rounds in less than half an hour.
Yeah, and it's safe. There's
From
no
opening the box to 100 rounds annealed half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no flame going on or anything like that. It's completely safe. A lot of guys anneal while they're watching TV, or get the kids to do it. It's that simple.
There's no fumes. You just plug it into a normal warm-up.
Yeah.
The main thing though is it's incredibly accurate and it's repeatable. When you use the settings that we showed you before, for example, with the Peterson brass, you just write that thing down, and every time you shoot that brass, you use this. You should anneal instantly every time. And if you do that, you'll get the same sizing every time. Your brass will last a long time. Most of our guys are getting well over 20 reloads per case, and this is for competition standard brass. Some much longer. In fact, if you buy 100 cases when you get a new gun, the brass is probably going to outlast the barrel.
That's the truth with some of these calibers. Like I remember at Precision Rifle Expo, I was taking the reloading class from Troy Lawton, and my shooting experience, I'm kind of like balling on a budget. I'm trying to play with the big boys and, trying to do everything for as cheap as I can. So I'm reading, watching YouTube videos on how to make my own annealer and this and that and the other thing. And I'm asking Troy, like, okay, so if I make this, how do I know exactly what temperature to do it to? And he's like, well, you just got to run the Aztec setting on your amp. I was like, but what if I don't have one? Well, really, the only way to do it right is to get an amp annealer. Well, like, what if I have like $100? Well, you should get more. Like, okay. So, definitely, some of the smartest people ballistically in the world are saying that it is the one and only way to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm at $102 now. So we'll see how much closer I can get.
Yeah, there is, as I said, you can certainly anneal with flame, but this way you get guaranteed results every time, and it's just so accurate and repeatable. There's no setup every time you want to anneal another bunch.
Yeah, it is an awesome project for sure.
Yeah.
Plus, we've got a lab here that if you have a specific wildcat that you're developing, we can give you a result pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And you just plug it in and away you go.
The one thing is, as well, you can't turn bad brass into good brass. We always recommend you should buy really high quality brass to start with. It's going to last you a long time, and it's a great investment. So, buy your Peterson brass, your Alpha brass, your Lapua, your Norma. It's great brass, and it'll do the job for you consistently.
That's awesome. Hey, let's take a second and hit discount corner. Jen, I know you normally start off with this.
Yep, you can get 10% off at carbonarms.us on Carbon Arms shotgun shell caddies and extension tubes and ratchet belts and all that with the code TSM10. You can also get 10% off of shooting jerseys with Under Industries, and you just message the Under Industries page on Facebook and mention the Shooter's Mindset, and he'll give you 10% off. And they have great shooting jerseys, hoodies for when it's cold, all that good stuff.
Cool. And I have the code Mindset10 in all caps. It'll save you 10% off of all phone scope products. Probably one of the coolest training tools / looking cool for the gram devices out there. That'll save you 10% off everything in their store. Do you guys have any on the spot codes for our viewers?
Yeah, in fact, we've just made one live now specifically for this podcast, and it's the same as the one you just said. It's Mindset, all in capitals. It'll give you a 10% discount on any purchase from our website. So you've got to go into our website, go onto the buy now, and then AMP USA. So if you go there, enter the promo code Mindset, and you get a 10% discount, and that'll last through till Friday night.
And you'll see the code entry at the checkout process.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good deal.
Yeah, that's a real good deal.
That includes the pilots. So if you have a lot of pilots you want to buy, it's 10% off the total order.
Now, we don't know where your podcast is going to, but this applies to USA residents only.
All right. Cool. So
I think we lost Anthony. He was having some connectivity issues. So
back to that show sponsor thing. If we get a show sponsor, we could upgrade Anthony to fiber internet so that we can not lose him in the middle of a show. So my full-time job is adding automation to manufacturing process to increase the efficiency. And like when I started in reloading, with a bunch of junk, I was like, it gave me heartburn having such an inefficient process. Isn't there a way where we could kind of more automate the amp annealer?
So we had a lot of guys back when the first unit came out that were saying that the manual operation of it was detrimental to, like everything else is great, but they couldn't justify sitting down and doing, say, 1,000 rounds by hand. So I spent a while developing it. We've got the amp mate here, and this just sits on top, and when you purchase it, it comes as you see it. And it retails $299 or $295. So we developed this to be affordable, and essentially just this sits on the annealer. You can see there's a cutout there for where it locates on the boss, and all you do is you put your your shell holder in there, and you adjust the height of various things, and it will feed the case for you. If I just turn it on here, you'll see it do its power up cycle here and sort of the operation of it.
this is like hypnosis, because at SHOT Show, I think y'all caused a traffic jam in the aisle because all the men would just stop and just like,
yeah,
they just stared at it for like 5 minutes without moving, just watching it. It was so funny.
Guilty as charged. I think I have a 5-minute video on my phone someplace of just watching that thing run.
So you can see as it comes down here. Just give it a sec. It takes a bit to boot up. And away it goes. Anytime now. So it goes, puts the case in. That's just testing the servos there. So I'll just activate the demo mode so you can see the actual operation, but then we'll carry on. So
this incidentally works in conjunction with a Dillon. You have a Dillon sitting on the top of it to feed the cases into the auto feeder itself.
Okay, I have my Dillon. It's right over here.
Yeah.
So I just need a couple other things and I'll be good to go.
Yeah.
So that's
Get 10% off until Friday night.
Well, these are just coming in stock. We've got a shipment arriving probably tomorrow in Las Vegas, and
you hear that, Chad?
They're going to sell out very quickly.
Chad Heckler just asked that question. Jordan wants to know what's the warranty and serviceability of parts for people in the States.
The Annealer, the Mark II Annealer comes with a 3-year full warranty. They are very robust, and once they're installed, they've got a great record. They very seldom need servicing. If they do, there's nothing that's serviceable by the customer. We, if it's within the warranty period, we just get FedEx to pick the unit up, ship it back here to New Zealand. We fix it usually within a day and ship it back to the customer. It's usually about a 7 to 10 day turnaround period, and the customer's got it back and working again.
Awesome. That's better than some. That's better than some companies that are here in the States with turnaround time.
With the AtMate, I think the AtMate warranty is 1 year.
Yeah.
The Annealer is 3 years. But what we're doing with the AtMate is we're going to be making spare parts as well, and that's more for, some parts just wear out, and that's less of a warranty. Some guys, my personal AtMate has done many hundreds of thousands of cases just in testing and development, and I haven't had anything break, but some guys, they're like, well, I want to, say bend this and try that, and you get tinkerers, so you'll be able to go and buy pretty much every part of the AtMate on the shop, and there's a warranty for 1 year. It is a mechanical thing. So.
Yeah, but as far as customer service is concerned, we're fanatical about that, and I think if you talk to any of our customers who've had any dealings with us on any service issues or warranty issues or communication, I think they'll all tell you that we're pretty good at that.
We're not allowed to have unhappiness.
No such thing.
That's awesome. I think Daniel Ferris said that he's going to be using his mindset code for the AtMate.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, is this the time where we should be doing any shout outs at all?
We'll get shout outs right at the end, I believe.
Okay.
We're getting kind of close. So basically we've talked a lot about neck tension, and that's something that we're going to see a lot more consistent with this. Everybody says neck tension, I feel more in the handle of the press, this, that, or the other thing. If I wanted to actually measure the true neck tension of a case, how would I do that?
Well, lucky you asked. Matt can tell you about that.
We won't go into too much detail about that yet. You might have read some of our articles that have a bullet seating press, the load cell. It's still under development, and we've still got a lot of work and testing to do to decide, what does actually make a difference. But in a nutshell, and you guys are the first to see this revised version of the press, but essentially this is what we've come up with. It's a far cleaner design, and if you just want to hold.
We had that at, we had that at SHOT Show.
We're just still getting the circuit board developed, but essentially you take
over there.
Yeah, you take your die and you just slide that onto the load cell, and there'll be buttons here you press, and that'll drive the RAM down onto the load cell. It'll give you a computer readout of exactly the force over distance as it goes down. So we've actually, if you look up the top, you'll see that's the same sensor the AtMate has for its position.
Yep. So we've had some really exciting results out of that so far. We're going to have beta versions of that out, and we've got about half a dozen testers that are going to be running tests for us to make sure it's working correctly over the next few months, and then we're looking at releasing it in the second half of the year.
That's awesome. And if you do actually want to see that device run, head over to the Shooter's Mindset YouTube page, and in there someplace there's a thing that says SHOT Show videos. Look for Jennifer talking with them at SHOT Show 2020. You'll be able to see all the products run, the amp mate, the annealer, and their fancy unnamed scientific contraption.
It's going to be called an amp press.
Amp press.
Yeah.
Amp press. So what do you think, what shooting discipline would you say is the majority of your market? Is it PRS or bench rest or F class or kind of all of the above?
The biggest single market would be F class and ELR. I mean, guys who are shooting at 2 miles and that kind of range need every advantage they can get. And one of those advantages is obviously the extreme spread of velocity. And this is almost a must-have now.
We actually get every kind of shooter you can imagine.
Yeah. We've got that's at that end of the range. We're sponsoring PRS extensively this season because we see that as being a major market. But we have other guys who just like they've got rare African Nitro Express brass that is almost unobtainable. This makes it last much longer. So, and some guys just like to have the best equipment, and this is without doubt the best annealing equipment you can buy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I figured it'd be a whole lot of higher end shooters. I wasn't sure if you'd get more PRS shooters just because we load a lot more than everybody else, or what.
Well, let's just put it this way: we get some pretty interesting brass.
Yeah, we've had just about every well, there's always another wildcat around the corner, but we've got most of them hanging on our wall here.
Yeah, I was looking through something on y'all's website today, just looking to see like what different pilots you had and all that stuff, and I somehow ended up in like a 47-page long document of all these different rounds I've never heard of. And
this is just some of our pilots, and we ran out of space on that tray, so all the 50 cals and a lot of the others are over the back because we just don't have room for them all.
That's awesome.
That is funny. It's like a bug collection, but it's brass.
We actually had one guy just recently, he wanted to have the complete collection, and so he bought one of every pilot that we make. He didn't have the guns for it, he just wanted to have the collection. We think it's fantastic.
That sounds like a horrible idea. Like I have friends that have like, oh, well, so I didn't have a 357, but I found a box of 357 ammo in my closet, so I had to buy a 357. That sounds like a horrible excuse for some very expensive guns. My bank account, yeah, my wallet would hate me. Daniel wants to know if you have an approximate price tag on the load cell.
We're aiming for 500 US or just under. We simply don't have the final costings of it yet, but that's where we think it's going to sit.
That is not bad.
Yeah,
at all.
But a lot of favorable feedback about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, some of the higher end turret presses and stuff like that are.
Now, just so you know that the results we've got out of it so far from the testing, it'll absolutely tell you whether your cases are annealed or not annealed. For example, it'll just give you a chalk and cheese different plot line on your graph, and instantly the data that you get from it is all storable. It'll give you graphs of each particular trace of each seating, and then you can store those. So next time you can compare that to what you got the last time you loaded the same brass. It'll pick up the difference between trimmed brass and not trimmed brass, or even if you've chamfered the case mount, it'll see that. It'll tell you things that make a big difference are the inside surface of the neck. So if you've got carbon buildup in there, you'll get a much higher reading or a much higher amount of force to seat the bullet than if you clean the carbon out. If you use moly, obviously you'll get a lower reading as well. So it tells you a huge amount of information about what is happening when you're seating the bullet. Now, how
this
important?
Is actually in an article, so
yeah,
it
is.
The article.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That sounds like something I need in here. It really does. After the
just wants a toy.
I love toys. I'm like with what I do for a living and everything like that. Like this seems like something that's so up my alley. But annealer first, then toys.
So are y'all going to come over to the U.S. to any of the PRS matches? I know y'all are sponsoring the series, so are y'all coming over for any of the matches?
We're sponsoring the Gap Grind again. We did it last year. It was phenomenal. Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. that'll be, like, of course, we're doing the SHOT Show again, but in terms of PRS, right now, in terms of us being there, it'll be the gap grind at the KDM shooting facility.
Awesome. That's a great match and a great way for people to see it.
Yeah, we just love gap grind. It was the first time we don't do competitive shooting, and that was the first exposure we'd had to it. And what a way to start with, starting at the top basically with of PRS has got to be gap grind. It was just an awesome experience. We loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my first PRS match and Jen's first PRS match as well. There's no better place to start out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't wait till this year. I don't know if I'm shooting or ROing or what, but definitely going to be there.
We will see you there.
So I got a couple live ones. Brandon Rudge said, shout out to Alex for going above and beyond, getting his amp mate fixed, up and running, smooth as butter. He had an issue, and Alex went above and beyond to take care of me. Thanks to the amp guys.
Well, I got to correct you there. I'm a blind man when it comes to amp mate. Matt does all of that, so he deserves the shout out, not me.
Shout out to both of you. And Jason Brown said it was great meeting you guys at SHOT, and you guys have a killer product.
Thank you.
I've never seen people so excited to destroy a piece of brass.
You only have to do it once, never again.
Yeah.
They're like, woohoo, it's time to destroy my first piece of brass. So the gap grind, should we just all bring our brass and just run it through while we're shooting?
There's a tariff. So they also have a beer truck.
Yeah.
So there's a tariff.
True that.
Want to do that.
Okay, so I'll bring the beer and the brass.
Or you might be lucky enough to win your own.
I can tell you that we actually have a lot of our customers who take their amp along to matches and anneal and reload at the match. You obviously can't do that with flame annealing, but provided you've got a power source, you can anneal right there at the match, and that gives you a big advantage. Walt Berger, for example, he's been one of our original customers, and he takes his amp everywhere.
That's awesome. I'd love to be, maybe not to that point, but, even like there's a lot of people that I know that are working on making setups to go out for load development. So, maybe not the full powder thrower and the case prep, but, you bring out 100 prep cases and go and shoot your first ladder. And then, you want to mess with seating depth. You want to mess with this. You want to mess with that. It would be awesome to just have the ability to bring everything out to the range with you.
Sure.
Would be very cool.
Yes. Need to build something in the back of the truck or something.
So I think we're good on live, aren't we?
Daniel said destroy once, cry once, and that's about it. I like it.
Hey, you wanting to do a shout out?
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're going to wind down to shout outs now. We'll let you go ahead.
Okay. First up, we'd like to do a shout out to Derek and Ben at Peterson's. They've been great. Brian Litz and Doc Beach at Applied Ballistics. They use our products all the time. Alpha Munitions, they're fantastic too. The guys at Reading, Forster Products, Western Powders, Night Force, all of these guys use our annealers and love them. And we're really proud to have those companies on board.
Awesome. Greg, what you got?
I got a couple live ones at the last minute. Steve wants to know if they can buy the upgraded parts to the AmpMate and if we have an older version, and can those be installed by the end user?
Yes, so the whole point with the AmpMate is that it made it so that the user or the customer could actually take this apart, literally every single component. So the revised parts on this, just briefly, are the most expensive part, obviously, of the whole thing is the new circuit board, and that allows you to use, say, the shorter USB cables. That makes everything a lot tidier. But all the aluminium parts, or aluminum parts, as you guys pronounce it, are available on
aluminium. I dig it.
They will be available soon. We've just got to package them up and then skew them and get them over there essentially. But essentially they're just slight modifications to the eject mechanism, the loading area. You can see at the back if you've got an original. The eject ramp now has a little ridge there just to keep it nice and tidy. It's just a few little bits and pieces that make it far more robust than the original one. And these aluminum parts are relatively inexpensive. So, you can just replace them as at your leisure individually. They're just nuts and bolts type things.
Awesome. Travis said he ordered an amp annealer yesterday and can't wait to get it and run it. He wish he would have waited for the code.
Hey,
I've done that more than once.
Another thing, every one of our Mark II annealers gets delivered with an amp cap. Now we've just the original ones we did were printed. We've just upgraded that to an embroidered cap, and those caps I know have just arrived in our Las Vegas depot today, so they'll be available for purchase tomorrow. Now, if you want to do a cap giveaway, guys, you know the rules of how you want to do that, but we're happy to put up a cap giveaway for one of your viewers.
Cool. We'll put up a post after this show, and we'll come up with some sort of a way. So keep an eye out on the Shooter's Mindset Facebook page, and we'll put up another post, and we'll probably draw a winner next Tuesday.
Yep. That'll be good.
Brandon said many of us saw the trimmer video and wants to know if that's something that AMP's going to put some time into in the future. Many of them would love to see that go further.
Which video is that?
A video of a trimmer.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that was put out by
one of our customers.
Yeah, by one of our customers, and he ingeniously worked out how to just sit it. So you take the trimmer and you mount it so that it's vertical, and you put the amp mount on top. You made a little ledge. We worked with him to increase the dwell time on the so as the case comes down using the demo mode, because the amp mate will run without the annealer attached. So, but in the demo mode, it just goes down and immediately back up. Not enough dwell time for it to do a nice trim. So we just increased the dwell time. So in terms of something we're going to do to bring something out, that's really early days. We might be able to get a kit out. We're still working on that, but at the moment we can't say yes or no. But watch the space.
Yeah, but watch. It's actually John Masek, isn't it?
F-Class John.
F-Class John, and he's done all the work on that. We can't claim any credit for that, apart from, as Matt said, changing the software and app to make it more compatible. But he's driving that project.
Well, F-Class John had the idea on YouTube.
Yep.
If you want to check him out, and we're just helping him make it work.
Yeah.
So,
awesome. All right, I think that's all for live.
All right, what's your shout outs?
I have Shooters and Sharpshooters of Augusta, our local ranges here. PDC Custom for an awesome rifle chassis, as you see behind me. My brand new, I know it looks the same, that beautiful lime green that everybody loves. But that's actually my Rimfire CZ457. I just got my new chassis in this week for it. NDZ Performance to build yourself a really sweet Gucci Glock. Bone Scope, pretty much the greatest long-range training aid. Shooter's World Propellant, because powder shortages are not for everybody. Shooter's World, I just said that. Hunter's HD Gold, the best glasses you can wear while you're shooting. Bortec, the only thing I really clean my guns with anymore. This stuff's awesome.
I can vouch for Phone Scope as well. I saw them at the what was the name of the Precision Rifle Expo?
Yeah,
and they had a booth there, and they're cool guys. So yeah, that's another one for Phone Scope.
Yeah, they are
cool guys and a cool way to help teach new shooters. So it's really good. All right, for my shout outs, I've got Prime Ammunition for awesome ammo, Macmillan fiberglass stocks for beautiful stocks of whatever color you want, Night Force Optics, Warren scope mounts, GSL suppressors, HD Gold, Bortec for awesome gun cleaning, Under Industries, Shooters of Augusta and Sharpshooters of Augusta, Phone Scope, and I think that's all. So if we don't have anything else, I think, are we good on live?
We're good on live.
All right, if we're good on live, then that will wrap it up for episode 287. And we appreciate y'all coming on live with us for almost 2 hours.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, guys.